I was born in Poland, in a city called Lodz. The population was about 600,000, and half of the 600,000 were Jewish people. The other half were Polish Catholics and a lot of German Volksdeutsch. My father married a nice lady, and she died in the First World, and she had 3 children. Then my father met another lady, it was my mother, and there were 4 more children, so there were 7 children at all. My parents were Orthodox Jews, and my home life was, when I look back, it was just like a wonderful dream. It was just warm and loving. We were sitting in the classroom, 2 girls on a bench, and in front of us, the teacher asked us our names, and then she said, "Who can read and write?" And I said I could, and she asked me to read something, and the girl that was sitting next to me, she said, "You dirty Jew." Since I was so smart, I must be a Jew. Well, I said, I am not a dirty Jew, and I took the inkwell that was there and I poured on her blonde hair. And I left it, and I said, I'll never come back here, and I went home. The invasion I remember very well. I think it was the 2nd day of September that we already saw the Germans in the street. Now, I was 21 years old, and I remember sitting at the window, and I figured myself, maybe it will last 2 or 3 months, but then the French and the British will come and it will be liberated. My parents thought that maybe Warsaw will be a better place for us. So they stayed in Lodz, they two, and they sent all the children to Warsaw. We thought that we could meet later, but we never did. For some reason they couldn't leave or whatever, and I never saw them again. And when I went to Warsaw, I had my fiancé with me, DIAMENT, and he left his family and he went with me too. And we were married a few days later. The Germans forbade Jewish people to get married, but we never paid attention to whatever they said or what, because whatever you did, you were threatened with death penalty, so it didn't matter what. We knew that our lives, even before the war, our lives were hanging this way and that way, and we knew very well what was waiting for us on the hill. We knew it very well. What I remember the most is seeing children dead in the streets. The parents were sent somewhere, they left the kids, and that's what I remember the most, seeing children. I remember there was one little boy, he was about 5 years old, and I saw him in the street, and he was sitting and crying, and I took him to my house, to my room, and he lived with us for about 6 months, and then he died. I don't know what he died from. There was a lady and a little girl, she was maybe 4 or 5 years old. There came a soldier, and he had a little Jewish baby, maybe 5, 6 months old, and he dragged it by his legs, and when he came closer to that group, he threw the baby in the air and shot it. And the little girl that was standing there with her mother, she clapped, she said, "Noch einmal, once more." We were taken and we were deported to Majdanek. Well, Majdanek was a camp like Auschwitz. So I was deported with Stefan, and then after 2 or 3 days, we were separated. He was sent to another place. I stayed in Majdanek for a couple of months, and then they sent us to another place called Radom. In Radom, there was still a ghetto. We stayed there till about the summer of 44, about August, and they sent us to Auschwitz from there. That was when the Russians were getting very close to Poland. One day, they took all the women from a certain block. We were told to undress, and we were walking in the street. And there were people that were watching us. The one that looked a little better were taken to the right side, and the one with left side, I was on the right side. and there were about 500 women with me, and we were sent to a work camp. It was called Hindenburg. The things that were a little better since we worked for them. I mean, we got maybe a little more eat soup or whatever. We were there in the Hindenburg camp, and the Russians were coming, so we were. They took us out, on the death march. I was young, and I made it. If you were old, you were dead. We were taken to Bergen-Belsen. And we walked all the way from Poland to Bergen-Belsen. We just supported each other the best we could. I remember I had a typhoid fever about 1 month before the end of the war, and I had a friend there, Helena Finkelstein. And I remember one time Helen told me, "Don't worry, you'll be okay, you'll be all right." And then when I came out of the coma, Helen was dead. Helen Finkelstein, this beautiful young girl, she was dead. She always gave me courage that I would live, and I did. The day of liberation, it was a morning of April 15, and we already knew for a few days the German guards disappeared, and there were some Hungarian soldiers there. And we didn't get anything to eat or drink for a few days because there was nobody there. And we were just sitting outside and waiting for something to happen. And then they came on the tanks, and they looked at us, and we looked at them. All the time of the war and the camps and everything, I never thought that I'm going to stay there. I always knew that I will survive. Of course, I didn't know anything about my husband or my brothers or sisters or anything. I had a sister who lived in Belgium. I was there 3 weeks at my sister's house, and one day the bell rings, and I opened the door, and he was there.